Today, we'll talk about the top 10 mistakes you should avoid as an IMG or a Caribbean grad as you're filling your supplemental ERAS application. Welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, consider subscribing to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram so that we can keep you updated on the latest happening in the USMLE world and help you match. So a couple of weeks ago, we did a webinar on the supplemental ERAS application, and I'll have the link to that below. But after that webinar, we got a lot of questions. So we thought we'll kind of sit down and highlight some of the typical mistakes that we are seeing students are making or they have questions about. So this video is about the top 10 mistakes which we think you should avoid as you're filling this application. So the very first mistake you can do is not fill the supplemental ERAS application. So fill it. This is the first time. We don't know how programs are going to use it and how they're going to use it to evaluate the IMG applicant. In absence of any of that information, it'll take a couple of seasons to figure this out. So just fill it and don't take the risk. The second mistake many of you could make, and we want you to avoid it, is not submitting it in the first window. As you know, the supplemental ERAS application can be submitted in two windows, the first of which is 19th of September 2021. And if you do it by then, the programs will get it by 29th September. Also remember, the first day of the ERAS application when programs access your ERAS application is September 29th. So to be on the safe side, you want both these documents to be accessible to the programs on day one. Therefore, submit it by the first window. Don't wait till the second window unless you have to and there are some issues. Third, and this is related to the second one, is do your ERAS application first. Almost all the information that you will use in the supplemental ERAS application will build on the ERAS application. So don't do it the other way. Do the ERAS application first and then build on that in the supplemental ERAS application. The fourth mistake relates to how the programs may view the ERAS application and the supplemental application. Now, the programs can view it separately, in isolation. So you should not write in your supplemental application, refer to my ERAS CV. While they will have both documents together, they could choose to review both of them separately. So don't do the mistake of not typing the experience in the supplemental application and say, this has been described in my ERAS CV. Now let's talk about the past experiences. Obviously, you should pick the top 5 from the ERAS and talk about these experiences in this section. There are 3 or 4 things that we think you should be aware of as you're doing that. The first mistake is to just copy paste the entire experience from ERAS CV. So just don't do that. Second, focus on your learnings from that experience and how they shaped your career goals. Third, unlike AMGs, these experiences will not be from your high school or earlier than medical school. So even if you are a recent YOG, recent graduate, focus on the experiences, possibly in the med school or later, to have an impact. If you have an older year of graduation, focus on experiences which are more recent. So let's say you're an 8-year-old graduate. There's no point in talking about your high school experience or even your med school experience. That was 8 to 10 years ago. So focus on more recent experiences. If you have home country residency, then it makes sense to focus on the residency experience and post-residency experience. And again, not go back too much in the history. Then there is a section on the other impactful experience. And we don't want you to make that mistake of saying things like, I could not find USCE, therefore I'm doing this volunteer experience, and this has been the most impactful experience. In very rare cases, these things can be very impactful. So don't do mistakes like this, and don't try to find excuses of not finding a USCE, therefore doing something else. That will be not considered an impactful experience. Of course, if you had real financial issues, I think it's okay to talk about it. If COVID really impacted you as a physician or otherwise, absolutely okay to talk about it. But remember that the definition of impactful or transformational experiences is not a substitute for finding excuses or justifying your maybe step attempts or failure or things like that. The seventh mistake, which a lot of you are doing and we want you to avoid it, is selecting the geography, the geographical preferences, the three divisions that students have to choose. So unless you have family ties, unless you live in one of these divisions, or there is a very strong reason, most IMGs can safely pick that I have no preference. And as part of the justification, you can say that you are looking for programs with strong didactics, clinical experience, research, or something else, and simply say no preference, irrespective of the geography. The eighth thing is do not pick rural versus urban. In most cases, again, you can say you don't have a preference, but there is a difference here. If you have very low scores, if you have multiple attempts, if you have other red flags, then possibly you have better chances in rural areas. So you may want to consider that. And in your case, you can pick the rural as a stronger preference over urban. Otherwise, for most IMGs, it should not matter. Of course, I want to stress that family ties and other things that you may have that make you unique, maybe you're local to a division or area, then the above two can change. But for most IMGs, it should not make a difference. The ninth mistake is around program signaling. So a lot of students may be tempted to signal programs which are a stretch program, Johns Hopkins, Harvard, Mayo Clinic, and all. So first thing you have to understand is there are only 5 of these that you can signal. Don't sweat too much about it. So if you have to pick these 5 programs, how do you do that? So possibly there you are local to the area. So those local programs can be signaled. Possibly you did your externships there, or even if you did some research there, so the program knows you, you can signal those. If you have a family or you have other network in the program, so you may be spouse of an attending, or there may be other connections to the program, obviously you can signal those. In some cases, for a recent YOG, if your rotation was canceled due to COVID at that program, there is a chance that you can signal that program as well. However, remember, in all cases, your profile has to be aligned to what the program is looking for in the eventual resident. Otherwise, you're just wasting that one signal. The 10th mistake, and this relates to the other video we did on the ERAS CV, is people not paying attention while they are doing this supplemental ERAS application. Do it diligently, pay proper attention to grammar and sentence structure and everything, because this could make a difference. We don't know yet. We don't know what programs will look for it. So don't rush in this. Take your time, do a thorough job, and you should be well set for the ERAS application as well as the supplemental ERAS application. All right, so that was all for the mistakes to avoid in the supplemental ERAS application. If you have other questions, please leave in the comments below, and we'll consider these questions in our subsequent webinars and as we start our interview preparation series with you all. Good luck for your match.